my name is Judson Wright. I am speaking with you from Miami. I do have the chat here on the side, so I will be, as the introduction said, this is much more of an interactive introduction. So I will not be spending a lot of time talking about some of the background and some of the research behind this. But as it says, it is a research-based methodology from Harvard's Project Zero. I will be providing you with information, especially there at the end, on where you can find out more. I would rather spend the time we have now actually going through some of these routines so you can see them yourself. I think as far as actually like reading some of the material, you can do that on your own. This is kind of a nice opportunity to actually try them for ourselves. So here we go. So first, because I know maybe one of you, I would like to start by allowing you to experience how I start off some of my language classes when I'm working with new students, new people. And the way we do this is through our first routine, which is called See, Think, Wonder. This is a 3-step routine, and it starts off like this. Basically, very easily, can you just identify the things you see in these pictures? And you can put this in chat if you want. Just list anything you see in these pictures, okay? So we have a lot of like the big picture things that we're seeing. The thing I would then do is say, well, what do we see even more specifically? For example, we see a cat, I see teeth. So if we see teeth, what else do we see? Maybe fear. For example, hair, I see hands, I see a nose. Yeah. So there's a lot of these like minor things that maybe we typically don't think to acknowledge, but we're seeing. So those are the kinds of things I'd like to elicit first. Are those little details? Even for example, the color red or blue. So starting off with these minor things. All right, so I hope you can at least see here from a idea of like language learners. This is in a classroom, a really nice way to, yeah, introduce yourself, but also if I have a group of students doing this exercise, I am getting to find out their language level, what kind of vocabulary they have. If I did this at the beginning of a lesson, I could actually be choosing a topic-based picture so I could know what kind of language do they already have around this content area. Also, it could be something, especially in the wonder section, where we start hearing about some of their own curiosities, the things that are important to them or that they want to know more about. So that's something I absolutely love with visible thinking. But I'm giving away a bit much because actually I would love to hear what are your thoughts on visible thinking? So you've maybe only experienced one routine very briefly now, or maybe you know bits about it otherwise. So what are your thoughts on visible thinking? What do you think it is? Why do you think it is? I would love to hear your thoughts. Pictures for visual learners, yeah. Again, there are never wrong answers here. It's just what do you think? What are you guessing? matter? Yes, yes.
I think it is a bit beyond that.
Mm-hmm.
I think
I'm just scratching the surface, but yeah, please.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. No, and again, I could talk for hours about this, and I agree that there's some really, really interesting things going on behind the scenes during these lessons, and maybe we can have that as a separate talk. But for now, I just want to kind of get us into feeling the routines and how they work and experiencing them. So for those of you who are quietly observing, yeah, just think now, what are your assumptions? What are you thinking so far? And now we will actually do a few more routines, and then we can come back to this as we go through our presentation. So let's try some of these VTRs, these visible thinking routines. Yes, there's lots of different words that sometimes come out of visible thinking, and we can return to some of these as well. So first is See, Think, Wonder. It's one of my favorite. However, we've covered this one, so that's one down. And this can be done with a wide variety of images of any type, illustrations. I sometimes just use things like personal photos because obviously I don't have to worry about where they're coming from, and Creative Commons or if it's something that I have to get that's editorial usage, that kind of thing. The next routine that I want to introduce early, because it's a very easy routine, and I tend to use it in lots of my other routines and other exercises as well, is a very simple question of what makes you say that. So if you are into an activity, for example, here, I have a moment where here's a picture, and I simply am going to ask, what is going on in this picture? And then what makes you say that? So if you look at this picture, again, we can either take people raising their hand, you can also put it in a chat. What's going on in this picture? What do you think? Snow diving? I hope that's a sport. I really do. Looking for a lost sheep? Yeah, maybe there's a sheep in there, like there's somewhere deep in the ice in the snow, and they're trying to get it out. Snowed in and bored. People do weird, amazing things because of boredom, so it's very possible. So let me go back to some of these. Snow diving, for example. What makes you think that they are snow diving? What would be a reason? So this was April's suggestion, but other people could chime in for what makes you think this could be snow diving. For example, for me here, the reason I could see snow diving is the position of the legs in the hole. Like I could see somebody running in and diving in, and that is the position that they ended up in. Yeah, exactly. The guy's torso is buried in the snow, so he's dived in, and that's all we see. That's as far as physics would let him get in. If we say, for example, he's looking for a lost sheep, what makes you say he might be looking for a lost sheep? Yeah, so we're identifying there are 3 other sheep of some kind that are outside of the snow. Yeah, there must be some reason. It might be a scarecrow. I love that. What makes you say that? What makes you think it could be a scarecrow? So I love the idea that maybe that is not a person, but like it's stuffed with straw or something else. I have seen people do that before, where they make like a fake person. So yeah, the legs look too stiff to be real. Like they're a little bit too straight. Whereas you think maybe they'd be kind of down on the ground more. Building an igloo, maybe. What makes you say they're building an igloo? How could you justify that? Like for me personally, I do not know a lot about building igloos, but I do know it's a pile of snow or ice, put a hole in it. Yeah, it's an igloo. That's basically all he's doing, right? It's got an entrance. Maybe there's some windows there. Who knows? Okay, so for any of these pictures, And it might not even be a picture. This could be a text. This could be a video. This could be lots of things. You basically allow the curiosity and the creativity of just wondering in this picture, what could possibly be happening here, and hearing all of those different answers. And again, no answer is wrong, but then thinking, okay, well, how could that be possible? If this is what your imagination thinks, or this is what your eyes think, what makes you say that? And it really asks students to give evidence for their ideas. So an avalanche, for example, you could then say, okay, it looks like maybe an avalanche. What makes you say that? You could look at even, for example, where there's broken ice, there's not snow everywhere. Maybe if someone's trapped, that's a sign that it was maybe because of an avalanche. So all of these things are all, again, very student-centered. And every time I do these, I hear new and fantastic answers that also keep me entertained. So like I said, the idea of a scarecrow, I really love that. I really love a lot of these. Yeah, the trees are broken, so that might hint that there was an avalanche as well, that there's something that's been going on. Great. So like I said, this can work in just about any other routine or activity, but it's a really nice, simple routine that you can add in. I think a lot of people are familiar with Think, Pair, Share. They might not realize that it is lumped in as a thinking routine, but it is definitely one of the Project Zero thinking routines. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that, but to give you an example from one of my classes in Kazakhstan last week, we were talking about the qualities of good teachers, for example. And I did a Think, Pair, Share. Now, I would use breakout rooms here. So first, I had my students just think on their own quietly for 2 or 3 minutes and make a list of all of these qualities they could think of. And then I broke them into breakout rooms, and they would talk with one student or maybe 2 other students, and they would compare their list and identify, in this case, like their top 3 ideas. And then I would bring everybody back, and then each group would share the ideas that they came up with. So this is, again, another nice way to have students being the ones leading the conversation, sharing their ideas, hearing other students' ideas, and based on those ideas, kind of bringing up new ideas. So again, there's a lot of collaboration here. Even in this, like I would say, like there's some very creative answers. And this, again, from a language learning perspective, is also very, very helpful because like all of these, the students are the ones trying to communicate their ideas. And I find them often reaching for these words that maybe they don't know. And in this case, for example, I know some students who, because there's, those differentiated levels in any classroom, how I can watch different students helping each other when they get really excited and they're trying to find that way to say something, and another student who's already been talking with them supports them, and it's really, really nice. So there you go. That's a Think, Pair, Share. So again, the first 2 are a little bit more traditional. Step inside. One of my big areas of interest in the world and in life is empathy. How do we develop and foster more empathy in our students, in our community, and just about everything we do? So the Step Inside routine is very much an exploration towards empathy. So we have another image here. You can look at it for a second. And the way a Step Inside routine works is we have to choose a person or an object or anything in this picture as our focus point, as the thing that we will do this routine as. So can somebody just tell me, what do we want to focus on? What is our person or object for this routine? Fear. Give us like one of the, like an actual physical object or person. The guard with the hat. Okay, so which one is that? Is that the guy that's sitting, or is it this woman here? We've got the lioness, the kid. Yeah, I'll need a specific one. The woman. Okay, so we're gonna do two. So we're gonna first do this woman here as our focal point. And our first question is, what do they see? So we did a see, think, wonder about what we see. What does she see as she's looking out from her perspective? Yeah, she sees a lion in front of her. Waiting for food desperately. So again, especially as adults, we focus on big picture, but think of those little details that she also sees through her eyes. For example, I think she has like something in her hands. I think like I'm also seeing, yeah, she's looking down at something. There we go. Yeah, so some specifics, the paws, the claws. There's maybe a little pot in the corner. She probably sees these trees and some sort of fence covering, jaws, looking into the jaws. Yeah, so first we start by just thinking and putting ourselves in her head, in her eyes, looking out, and these are the things we see. The next step we go into is what do they believe? So for this woman, we do not know her, but what does she think in the world? Like based on this picture, what are some of her beliefs, the things that she is confident in, the things she knows? Yeah, she's safe, that they are safe. What makes you say that? What makes you say that she is safe or not afraid? Yeah, so there is a cage, but I see some people in the cage who are afraid, like especially this person here. Yeah, she seems relaxed. Good. Her behavior, the way she's standing, she's not there going like this. Yeah, so we can guess, we can assume from her perspective that she feels safe and in control. That she has done this before. Yeah, the uniform indicates she's staff at the sanctuary. Right, so we're picking up these things and able to make assumptions about her beliefs and what she has done. Now, the third part of this is what does she care about? So what we've already thought about this person and what she does, what do we think she cares about in life? What are her values? People's safety, the safety of others. Nice. What else? The animal safety. Yeah, really nice. I'm sure if she has this job, it's because she cares about the animals not getting her fingers eaten at the moment. Yes, I'm sure she's trying to be very careful to keep all of her fingers. So we see a lot of different things that she cares about. Some of them are very deep about things she loves in life. She cares about the animals. She cares about other people's safety. She also cares about her personal safety in this exact moment. And even just she cares about doing her job well, maybe. So this is a woman that I did not even see at first. I was trying to find her. And now I've thought a lot about her. And I've thought about her job. I think she cares a lot about this job. I think she enjoys what she does. I think maybe other people respect her. So by taking an intentional moment and going into any of these people, we get a lot more feeling about how others feel and think and see. Oftentimes people that maybe we didn't even consider. When we do this routine, I've seen people who would even choose like this lion here, who's just sitting there and watching. So, you know, they see this guy, maybe they're, you know, they care about different things than this person does, or this scared person cares differently. Or even the truck. You could do this routine from the perspective of the truck or the cage, or maybe this tree. So sometimes different groups will choose different things, and then you hear all at the end. Sometimes we can do these quickly and get different perspectives. I really love this, not just for, again, random photos, but also to think this is flexible anywhere from fairy tales to, for example, looking at like a refugee camp or other places where, depending on the age of your students, depending on the topics, you can go into about any environment, any situation, any story, and think, what are the motivations? What are the things these people care about in like Little Red versus the Wolf? Nobody is the villain in their own story, right? So really having people think, why are people who are different from me? Why do people who I feel oppose me, or people that don't always enter my mind, like what are they actually like? What do they care about? It really humanizes people and gives us a better understanding and connection with just about anything around us. So I really, really, really love this routine. And again, like this routine, you can find lots of other information on the Project Zero website. Again, I'll give you a link. And obviously you have to think about your content and what's appropriate for your students, because they lead these lessons and you can't always control them. So you want to make sure you choose objects carefully that will still be appropriate for whatever your teaching environment. Okay, options explosion is my next one. And again, if you have any thoughts on a specific VTR you want to share, again, you can either raise your hand, which I won't see, but can be called out, or put it in the chat, and I'm happy to hear it as well. Okay, so unless there are any thoughts or questions, options explosion.
Judson, may I ask a question?
Please.
Because I see some of the names, people who are coming from basic science.
Mm-hmm.
So if you think that you can give just a quick idea, the majority are English language teachers, but we have some basic science teachers. So maybe an idea or two that might help them teaching.
Yeah, of course. So for example, in a See, Think, Wonder, there could be, especially in science, I think there's a lot of great moments where, for example, buoyancy is something where, you know, when we look at, you know, you have a boat and you have the water, you put the boat on the water, you see the water rise, right? So for students who are still learning some of these concepts, and it could be about gravity, it could be about just about anything, giving them a chance before you explain to them the science of it, to actually identify, to observe what it is they see, and to find ways to think about, to hypothesize what's going on in this thing. And then, of course, to ask questions about why is this happening? So before, you know, we spoil the answers for them, we allow them that moment of curiosity, of wonderment, and trying to guess what is happening here, which to me is like fundamental to a lot of the key needs in science students, is really, you know, fostering that burning curiosity to understand what's happening in the world. And again, that's just one small example. But I think there's lots of ways you can go about it. So even, for example, in options explosion that I'm going to show you, you could set up scenarios where you don't tell them the answers, but you just say, based on your thinking, what you know about the world or what you know about the question being asked, what possible solutions are there? You know, if you're looking at you know, why do ice caps melt? And brainstorming all of the different causes for any natural phenomenon. I think there's lots of room, not just in language learning, but across a lot of subjects. I have seen teachers in history classes and other social science classes also use some of these routines to spark conversation and debate around a lot of topics. There's one routine that we will not look at today called tug of war, which is really a nice routine for, you can basically put like a long string on a screen or on a wall, and people have to start giving points and counterpoints to opposing ideas so that they can really visually see, again, these different perspectives, and realize, again, that people on both sides of any argument have reasons why for them it's a valid argument. Obviously, you can then take those and discuss them further. But again, it gives you great insight into what they think. And sometimes it gives them insight into what they think. I think many times we don't know what we actually believe until we hear ourselves saying it. So sometimes this just gives them a chance to be thinking out loud and understanding these things. So that's kind of a long answer to explain that, yeah, across many disciplines, I've seen this used and I've seen it work to really nice and interesting effect. And again, this is part of a toolbox, right? So I'm not saying this is a methodology to use all the time, every time. But as a routine, hopefully, it does kind of circle back in your classes now and again. So with that, let's look at options explosion. So in this, again, we have a scenario, a situation. In this case, we're going to have two boxes. Because they need names, we're going to call them box A, box B. Easy enough. And we also have Artemis. There's Artemis again, my cat. We need to get Artemis from box A to box B. However, she does not like to be touched. So the question here could be, how can we get Artemis from box A to box B without touching her? So this is starting off just a brainstorm activity. What solutions can you think of? In that sense, what I take from that also is, yeah, like we have to reach 21st century students. And if we try doing that the way that we were used to doing it, it's not going to hit the same. It's not going to land the same. They need oftentimes more visually engaging material. They need to have a voice in their learning. And this allows them to have that thing. Yeah, especially across all the new medias. Because you could even take a lot of these kinds of things. You could make a lesson around a TikTok or whatever other social media you have in your location, and you could do whole routines around these. And even some of the outputs they do, you could use technologies, you could use dance, you could use whatever you want, or even allow them to brainstorm ways to give their outputs. All right. So again, for sake of time, I love this feedback. I definitely agree that there's a lot to happen here. Our role as teachers is to intrigue and encourage students with every tool possible. With these methods, activities, students are reflecting on situations, beliefs they have, and how that changed. Yeah, exactly, 100%. Just like this, I used to think, now I think routine is. Giving them an opportunity to intentionally realize how their thoughts are changing. Because often they might not understand or value education if they just feel like they're going into a classroom, sitting there for an hour and leaving. If you can actually find some way to not only qualify, but kind of like give a quantified list of here are the things you have improved, that just gives them more purpose, I think, in the classroom. Okay, so we are already asking some questions. Do we have any other specific questions you want to ask now? We can't get into the wonderful debate I would love to have, but if there are any general questions you have about running these or challenges, I'm happy to give you my experience. If you have hands.
Okay, so April has her hand up.
Yeah.
Hi, thank you for presenting this. It's very fascinating.
Thank you.
I have some questions. Just how much time, like for example, if you're using this in sort of a, let's say a grammar or math class where it's more kind of more structured in terms of less, and instead of a reading class, for example, how much time would you spend on these routines, or in any class, I guess?
Yeah, so this is again where I think there's a big benefit to the scalability of it. I would take a minimum typically of like 10 to 20 minutes if you're starting out something on it. If it's something as simple as like question starts or think, pair, share, you can do some of those a little bit quicker if you really need, but you want to put them in there. But something like some of the see, think, wonders or the options explosion, those can, if you allow them, especially with maybe some follow-up and reflection time, you can make a whole lesson out of some of these. But as you've seen that I have been doing is basically, I leave it open and people will talk and talk and talk, at least in a classroom environment, until I basically say, okay, we need to move on now. And usually it's about kind of segueing naturally from like one step to the next. As you saw, like in my example in the think, pair, share, so for my students this week with that specific think, pair, share, I was like, all right, you have 2 minutes to write down your own list of words that come to mind for qualities of a teacher. I put them in a breakout room. I think they had, in pairs or groups of 3, they had like 4 to 5 minutes on their own to chat. And then when they came back, we had probably another maybe 5 to 8 minutes of just hearing from these different groups, and then another 5 or 6 minutes of conversation after. But to be fair, like that was part of the big chunk of this. This was a 2-hour lesson where it was really, again, getting their thoughts and ideas out there first. So as we talked about these qualities, it was already all kind of front loaded into their mind. So to give a short version of what I just said, it's very scalable to the time you need, but just be aware that it can take quite a while if you want them to have like those full conversations.
Great, thank you.
Yeah. I will say, like you said, you can use the text and the content that you're already planning on teaching, of course. And if you find, a particular image or a concept that you think would work really well, try that. I find the thing that takes me the longest is sometimes finding good images, like good visual things to evoke that curiosity. So typically, you want a picture that tells a story, that has something more going on, something they look at and they don't just go, okay, it's obvious what's happening. But like the guy with his legs in the snow, or the lions on the cage, something that really is going to draw them in and make them think more about what's happening, adding that sense of wonder.
I have a question.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that you've gone through some classes where you have like completely different levels of students. Like some students who are chatty and they like to hold the floor for so long, and you can hardly stop them from talking. And those shy ones that don't want to participate, or they're not sure. How do you hold the balance between the two, since this kind of activity is based mainly on engagement and classroom participation?
Sure. So I worked with Macmillan Education for many years, developing textbooks. And one of the main series that I worked on, a series called Global Stage, we actually introduced thinking skills, visible thinking routines at the beginning of every unit. And when I first had kind of proposed this, people were like, I don't know if this is going to work or not. So we actually trialed it. And I still remember, I can't share it because it's obviously Macmillan-owned research, but there were students in one of our pilot countries who did a see, think, wonder. And we showed them, we gave them like a guide on how to do this, and we got to see the results. And there were students who were very shy and had very little English. But in their version of the see, think, wonder, they used a graphic organizer. Lots of people use graphic organizers to write down their ideas during visible thinking routines. And the student who actually could not really speak very well and was shy had the most beautiful pictures that they were drawing and giving examples of the things they saw or the things they imagined happening there. And then when it came time to share as a group, the teacher made sure that each group had a chance to speak. So instead of just relying on the 1 or 2 students who take up all of the oxygen, specifically making it about, okay, the individual did their time, they talked with somebody else and practiced this, now let's hear from everybody. It gave them a chance to share their own thoughts and ideas. Now, in some of the lower level classes, sometimes they'll use the L1 and the L2 a bit. They'll do as much as they can in English, But if they need support with a word or something like that, that maybe they'll have that. But remembering that they can draw, they can use body language. So in my experience, as long as a teacher, you are facilitating turn taking among the people, you can usually work with that. To be fair, I also do a whole session with my students early on in a semester about conversation skills, like how to be a better peer among your students, so that we work on listening, turn taking, follow-up questions and statements, so that in addition to this, they're also learning how to be respectful and supportive of each other. So also something to always consider as you add more communicative practice into your lessons. Okay. In that case, just to let you know then, so one of the best books on this, and this comes from some of the original developers, is Making Thinking Visible. You can find this on Amazon or wherever you buy your books. And it has a lot of the routines, but even more, just Google Project Zero Visible Thinking, and you will go to their Thinking Routines Toolbox webpage. I've just added some screenshots here because I didn't want to try to leave and see what happens. But you go there and they actually have all of these different routine types. So if there's certain kinds of thinking you have to hit benchmarks on or share, whatever it is, across various fields, you can probably find something here. And then when you go into the individual routines, so for example, sentence, phrase, word, they actually then break down examples of here's why we do this routine, here's when and where you can use it, here's some tips for starting it out. So they've done a really nice job of supporting teachers or anybody with using these routines. And I will say, like anything, it takes a little bit of practice to get right. So don't be disappointed or frustrated if the first or second time you do this, the kids are more quiet or they're not as engaged. Because you also, as a teacher, as presenter, have to learn how to facilitate this and make everyone know that it's a safe space to comfortably try this thing. So I really wanted to share that real quick. Again, that's just Google Project Zero Visible Thinking and you will find it. And that is me. So I really thank everybody for allowing me to talk. I am on LinkedIn if you want to find me or ask any more questions. You can email me. Sometimes I'm a little slow to get back because I'm pretty busy, but I'm always happy to hear.